Minorities were able to experience many of the joys of downtown, but they didn't always have the same positive shopping experiences that others remember.
We were not allowed to eat. They would close the booth when you would go in order to eat. They would say, this is not open and we cannot serve you.
You would find different clerks that would not wait on you, would make excuses why they couldn't wait on you.
Bob Render's mother told him the story of the day she went to buy a dress, and all but one of the clerks refused to help her.
But you could communicate through body language that that's what they were saying. You know, one, what are you doing here in the department store, let alone what are you doing in this particular department? But she said there was a woman that got up from the couch, went to her, treated her very kindly and very graciously, asked her what could she help her. And she formed a very good relationship. She said it was a Jewish woman who waited on her. And from that point on, she would find out when this woman was on duty, what her off days were, and if the schedule rotated, she would find out all of that and made sure that she saw that particular clerk.
While some stores were a problem for minority shoppers, many, such as Rosenblum's, were happy to service minority clients.
Well, they started servicing the black community. We got credit. You know, it's one of the first places down here to do it. That's where these boots came from. These are 30-year-old boots. They were courteous. They were friendly.
In Akron, African Americans who were shunned at some of the stores along Main Street spent their money at shops on Howard Street, which sought out minority shoppers. But things changed for the better when many of the downtown department stores took active roles in civil rights.
Wviz, for instance, pioneered in integrating sales staffs. And sales staffs were eventually integrated. And essentially by the 60s and 70s, blacks were shopping at the downtown department stores.
They were just beginning to hire blacks. I went down and applied for it. And they hired me. I was surprised.
Pleasant surprises also awaited many downtown Cleveland shoppers who took a chance and ventured off the beaten path.
There was a mystery about downtown, I guess, a little bit. Not only the big stores, but then you'd go to, say, like Prospect. And that was kind of like a little bit of those forbidden zones. It was a little bit grittier on Prospect, but they had Record Rendezvous. You walk in that old record store, and there was just racks and racks of all these great albums and everything that you didn't find in the regular chains.
I bought these on January 23rd, 1960.
Lois Denny was at Record Rendezvous that day. She knows that because, like a lot of teenage girls, she wrote it all down in her diary.
But this one was Teen Angel, yeah, by Mark Dinning, and that was a big hit in January 1960.
My mother basically stuck to the stores, the main stores on Euclid Avenue. Occasionally we might go down 4th Street. Yeah, I would go to Record Rendezvous because I might tell her while they're shopping, and when I got of age, and she gave me kind of let the umbilical cord go from me and let me kind of venture out on my own a little bit while they might have been at another department store, and then I would just catch up with them.
The 1960s ushered in changes for downtown Cleveland and Akron. The cultural revolution of that era was not lost on the owners of the downtown stores.
At the time, I was hired to be the teen coordinator and put together a program. And the program was a very large teen program, but what it did was bring hundreds down and thousands downtown on a Saturday, and there were a variety of things. We did fashion shows that had bands that played at the same time, and thousands would turn out for that. We had teen twist breakfast. Didn't seem to matter what you did or the time of day, but the teens would come downtown for it. It was so that Hallie's could get, as Mr. Hallie used to say, more with it.
To keep in line with the changing roles of women, Hallie's even brought in a liberated Santa.
Santa Claus is a sexless position, and if you're qualified and you can ho 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 and be quite jolly, I don't see why a woman shouldn't be hired.
While social adjustments and pop culture changed the look and feel of downtown, urban sprawl that began in the 50s also made a huge impact.
The decline of the department stores probably begins in the 50s. That's not to say it was precipitous or immediate. Some stores, Higbee's, continued to do very well indeed. But by the 60s, all the stores were beginning to branch out. Higbee's and Halley's, May's were branching out as Parmatown.
I can remember my father opening, the May Company Parmatown store, which opened in 1959.
There were those who thought, hey, this is marvelous, it'll just be more money, and those who said, hey, it's just going to draw our customers, our Parma customers, away from downtown.
And as consumers, of course, were going outward, then if you're in retail business, where are my customers? Well, most customers were still close in, but clearly there were more and more customers that were further out. Still within this county, of course, but they were more and more in Parma, more and more in Fairview Park.
I think the malls pretty much took care of it. Nobody wanted to come downtown and have to deal with that when they can go to a mall in their backyard or in their neighborhood.
The first of the large downtown Cleveland stores to close was Sterling Lindner. In late 1968, the city knocked it down as part of a drive towards urban renewal.
Now, this is the only time that tearing down means progress. You understand that, don't you?
Yeah, which way you gonna bring that?
Little did they realize then that it wasn't just a building being demolished. It was a reflection of a changing tradition and a way of life. In shooting this program, we found a neat little nugget. These photos from around 1930 show a sign painted on the terminal tower promoting the construction of the new Higbee's department store. Here we are present day on the 10th floor where the Higbee's auditorium used to be. The walls have been all stripped away to make room for new office space. But look what we found, the remnants of that old Higbee's sign. A piece of the past that's part of the future of downtown Cleveland.
The key now for downtown is developing the residential base, getting more and more people to live there. That's what will create the new downtown. That's what will make it even more attractive, particularly for the younger people living in the suburbs, to come down for a movie and even do some shopping at Christmas time.
Did someone say something about shopping downtown at Christmas time? While shopping downtown was special, shopping downtown during the Christmas season was really special.
It just had this grand opulence to it that even as a kid you appreciate. At Christmas time, you come down and it's a whole wonderland.
When you're a kid, everything seems bigger than life. But even for adults, this next downtown memory was really big.
There was a store called Sterling Lindner Davis, which had and as a child, it looked like it was 300 feet tall, the most unbelievable Christmas tree in the lobby.
As a child, you really were in awe because it was huge.
Oh gosh, it was so high. I don't know how to describe it. If you would ask me today, I would say it was probably 10 stories high.
Well, just unbelievable to see a tree that tall and that glittering and the size of those ornaments.
I always wondered how they got that darn thing in through those doors.
Yeah. How did they get that thing in there? In those days, stores would decorate for Christmas after Thanksgiving. Following their turkey dinner, the Sterling Lindner elves would unbolt the front doors of the store and wait for the green monster to arrive.
They usually brought the tree in on the Saturday after Thanksgiving, after the store closed, probably at 5:30 or 6 o'clock. They closed off Euclid Avenue, and a big truck came in with the tree on a flatbed, and they took the front doors off and brought the tree in and set it up overnight. And then on Sunday, which the department stores were not open on Sunday, the crew came in and decorated it.
As far as I know, most of the men that pulled it in, and some of their sons like me, were just volunteers. It seemed like it took forever, but it was probably only 15 minutes. But it had to be pulled in by hand. It was on a dolly, and they pulled it in. And in the middle of the store, there was a staircase that went down to the basement, so they had to kind of go along the side of that and bring it around. And we only stayed basically until the tree was set and they started to pull it up.
Putting the tree up was a real job. We had In the Sterling Court, I don't know how many stories high it was, 5 or 6 stories anyhow. They had a grid up above where you could drop lines down. Then they had window washers buckets that people sat in, and they could control the ascent, and they were handed ornaments by somebody who was behind them, and they would put them on the tree slowly, decorating the thing from top to bottom. It was a tremendous job. And the tree, of course, was alive, and it grew several measurable inches while it was in the place.
Around the base of the tree, they had a picket fence, a white fence, and then a plaque that usually said where it came from and how high it was.
I went in and I couldn't believe it. Of course, the ornaments were to scale. I mean, they had ornaments the size of 3 bowling balls. You know, it was unbelievable.
That's no lie. Pat Boris and her husband worked at Sterling Lindner and were given boxes of the ornaments when the store closed.
This is one of the many ornaments that hung on the tree, and they're very heavy. They're blown glass. This one is made in Austria, and the little tag is still on it. 2,500 ornaments on the tree, and tinsel and icicles, and then the metal bells. If I say that I used to work at Sterling Lindner, the first thing they say is, "Oh, I remember the Christmas tree." And that was really what they were known for, was the beautiful Christmas tree, sort of like the Rockefeller tree in Rockefeller Plaza.
But there was another thing about Sterling's at Christmas that totally intrigued me, and that was that they too had a special room for children at Christmas. The thing that totally enthralled me there was this winter wonderland that you walk through. And when you arrived at the end, there was Francis the Talking Mule waiting for you. He would talk to you, and then he would send you this wrap package down a chute. And that memory just like totally fascinated me. Back then, I mean, he was the big rage. He was it.
I was at Santa Claus at Sterling Lindner, and I did know enough that my grandpa used to bring me down there when I was a little 5, 6-year-old kid, and they had the biggest tree in the country, and as far as I knew, and Santa Claus was under that tree. So when I applied for the job, I thought, hey, this is not only Santa Claus, but this is the Santa Claus.
Cleveland's downtown had the look and feel. It was so right that when it came time for Hollywood to make a Christmas classic, they came to Cleveland. Turning back the clock to a simpler time was A Christmas Story, set in the 1940s and shot in Cleveland because of the historic look of its neighborhoods, stores, and downtown.
That movie really reflected, I think, when you look at that, what downtown was all about. It had this sense of you had to be there to understand it. You had to hear the bells, you had to see the lights, you had to see the mechanical windows, you had to see the hustle and bustle and the people loaded with packages. It's an environment that you absolutely cannot capture in a mall.
When I watch Christmas Story, you have fond memories of what downtown used to be like, and the memories.
The store's display windows created a lot of those memories.
All the stores had animated windows, wonderful windows that were fabulous not only for children, I say they were for children of every age, but you wanted to be part of that, and you felt like you were missing something if you didn't go downtown.
No matter how cold it was was never too cold to just stand there and put the nose on the window. And it was truly a fairyland.
Every single window had something in it that was animated. It would be little figurines singing, they might be elves in a workshop. I can't remember exactly what each one was, but for a child it was Alice in Wonderland.
Famous life photographer Margaret Burke White took these Depression-era pictures of Halley's Christmas windows in 1934. The reality of the bad times was softened by the fantasy world of these displays.
When I looked at those windows, I knew that I was not about to get these beautiful dolls or things like that, but it still was a thrill to just see the scenery and the action and the Santa Claus and the elves. You know, it was fantasy, but it was beautifully done.
Their Christmas windows were on par almost between Polsky's and O'Neill's, but O'Neill's had the edge.
Well, the Christmas displays were the greatest of all.
But the display artists were marvelous, and they had beautiful figurines.
On the bus, if you heard people saying, oh, you've got to go to Maze, you've got to see the, whatever it is, shop, you've got to see the ice skating window this year, and you had helped install them, of course, it gave you a glow of pride. And, oh yes, vast amounts of customers in traffic would be attracted by a specific display, and they would come downtown just to see that.
Kids coming downtown also got to play Santa at a special shop where they bought little gifts for Mom and Dad.
Probably the best shopping experience I had was when I was really little. I went to the Twigby shop. And that was a place in Higbee's where adults were not allowed. It was too much fun. I think about all of the different things that were on the little tables that you could buy. And I just think about, you know, the parents who, when they got those gifts, made them seem like they were the most wonderful thing, but they probably was like, you know, the 13th pen that you'd given your mother.
If you were a kid or even a parent, things like the Twigby shop, Sterling Lindner tree, and window displays were just to whet your appetite before you had an audience with the jolly elf in the red suit. And for many people, even Santa had to take a back seat to a Cleveland original, the Keeper of the Keys.
It was the only place you could go to see two things. One, the real Santa Claus, because only the real Santa Claus would be downtown, and see Mr. Jingling, because there was only one Mr. Jingling anywhere, period.
Hi, boys and girls. I'm Mr. Jingling, and I'm so glad to be back here with you on television. Did you have a nice Thanksgiving Day yesterday and had some turkey or something just as good? Doesn't matter, though, as long as you got together with people you loved and celebrated.
Mr. Jingling really was more popular, I think, at Halley's than Santa Claus was, really. And I think part of that had to do with the promotion that was done with the show.
You know, it certainly is going to be a puzzle figuring out who dropped this down my chimney and what's inside. Well, I'll see you Monday, boys and girls, and I'll kind of wait for you to open it up, and then we can open it up together and see what's inside, and I'll try to find out who said it. I can hardly wait. See you then.
I remember seeing his show during the Christmas season, and it was something that we would make sure we were there watching, so we would catch Mr. Jingling. In fact, he was a character that had almost the stature of Santa Claus.
So what was the story on Mr. Jingling, and how did he get this job as Santa's Keeper of the Keys?
I work for Santa Claus. You know, I'm a locksmith, and I make keys and wind-up things for the toys. And it's a job I've enjoyed very, very much ever since the time, well, long time ago, when Santa Claus lost his key to the toy warehouse where we keep all the toys just before we put them on the sleigh for Christmas. Well, I made him the key, fit that door. We got in there, got those toys, and got them delivered. And Santa was so happy and so nice about it. He made me his Keeper of the Keys.
Mr. Jingling, are you tingling?
Keeper of the Keys.
On Halley's 7th floor, we'll be looking for you to turn the key.
For we have a date underneath your Christmas tree.
I designed the graphics on the key, and they were die cut and printed off in the thousands, and those keys were used, I think, up until the time Halley's closed. And so I guess I can lay claim to not being Mr. Jingling, certainly, but designing his good luck key that was put around the neck of thousands and thousands and thousands of kids in northeastern Ohio.
They all tell Mr. Jingling about, oh, we got your keys, and they have little like sayings about them and reminding, and they say, well, what they open. And I said, well, what else? They're the keys to your heart. I think they're a symbol of Christmas. The favorite part, it's the smiles and the eyes for boys and girls. And that's a pretty good two-way street. I get it. I get the love from them, or did then, and I can see it in their eyes. And that's about as good a deal as you get at Christmas. Better than the presents and the gifts, I think. I'm Mr. Jingling, how I tingling, keeper of the key. On Hallie's 7th floor, we'll be looking for you to turn the key.
The question remains, what was so special about shopping downtown? The Frosty Bar, the Silver Grill, Mr. Jingling, May's, O'Neill's, Polsky's, Hallie's, Higbee's, the Sterling Lindner tree. By themselves, they don't mean that much. They're made of bricks and mortar. The merchandise is made of cloth, leather, paper, or plastic. The food is quickly eaten and you're hungry a few hours later. But all those things were a way to bring people together, to enjoy the warmth of each other's company, to connect as one big community and celebrate the human spirit. It all happened downtown, and it was the way we shopped.